Well, I'm 2 videos and 5 games into the Kirby retrospective now, and I think I've overall been harsher on the series than most people would be. I don't dislike any of the games, kinda, but I think they just had flaws most people might not really think they had. But you can actually watch those videos for my full thoughts on each of the games. In fact, you probably should, as this video will make a lot more sense with that context. While I had a connection to a couple of those games before, we're serious now because Kirby Superstar was my shit as a kid. I played it on the Wii Virtual Console over and over again, and I still have a ton of nostalgia with the game. Even saying that, if I have issues with it, I'm still going to criticize Kirby Superstar just as much as previous Kirby titles. I would kick 11-year-old me in the face in the name of fair and objective criticism. That said, I don't think that's entirely necessary, because you know what? I enjoyed Kirby Superstar a lot more than I did Dreamland Adventure and the Dark Matter trilogy. So let's talk about it. Every Kirby game I played before was a pretty simple affair, format-wise. You go through worlds and each world has levels. Simple. Kirby's Adventure did shake it up with some mini-games, but Superstar is different. There were a total of 9 games in Kirby Superstar. Actually, 10 if you want to be a smartass and consider the sound test to be a game. This is also why the game is called Kirby's Fun Pack in Europe. And do you think British people called Jesus Christ Superstar Jesus Christ Fun Pack as well? Anyways, most of them are traditional Kirby stuff with platforming and all. And all in all, it's a very quality Kirby platforming experience. Playing this was a breath of fresh air after the Dark Matter trilogy, because the long stretches without enemies, or even just more boring sections, aren't really here. The game manages to have a lot of surprisingly insane level design. I'm talking like rooms full with lava, wind everywhere, and just piles and piles of blocks, and that was definitely in every other Kirby game I covered, but just felt more memorable here. Perhaps because it's more frequent, or, again, maybe blatant Superstar bias, or maybe it's just because of this game's superb atmosphere, more on that later, but all in all, the game was just more memorable to me. So, it's no secret at this point that I was never the biggest fan of copy abilities in the Kirby series. But where Kirby Superstar elevated in my mind is how it handles this copy ability system. By some miracle, it's like 75% fixed in this game. I can't really say I expected that at all. I felt like copy abilities trivialized many elements in previous games by allowing you to almost just plow through enemies, but they're slightly nerfed here, at least compared to your normal abilities. So that doesn't really happen. Copy abilities take a couple or a few hits to actually take out each enemy, meaning you have more time and ways to engage with each level, not just skip it at all. This is especially true of bosses, where I almost felt encouraged to use the normal Kirby form. Sure, I could take a slightly easier way and wear down each boss with abilities, or just take a simpler path and shoot the projectiles back at them, because it deals much more damage to just do that. And you generally will still have to avoid the attacks of bosses too, even if you're using copy abilities, making them one of the most fun parts of the game. Again, there are actually a few bosses introduced in this game that are like absolute weirdos, like Marks, or even weirder characters like the fucking computer virus who hasn't even returned in the series again, and I love them a lot. Even if some were a little bit of difficulty spikes that were probably way too high. Except Wham Bam Rock. That was a boss I did not like at all. Talk about great cave offensive. I'm sorry. Anyways, I also enjoyed the fact that copy abilities generally have multiple uses now. Look at Beam, for example. It doesn't just shoot a laser. You can also jump and shoot a big ball of energy, and shoot a weird rotating cone thing. This versatility makes copy abilities more fun to use, even if I actually felt encouraged to not use them as much in this game. So does this mean copy abilities are perfect now? No. They still feel off in a few places, like they did before, but this is a genuinely really impressive step forward, and it makes me excited to see the future of the Kirby series. I almost wish I hadn't played this before the Dark Matter trilogy games. Even Kirby's Dream Land 2, which came out before this, because that would better show how well it actually only took Sakurai one game to improve copyability significantly. Pretty satisfying when the game from my childhood still holds up so well. And do you guys remember when in Kirby's Dream Land 3 you could summon Gooey, and he would just I did not like him in that game? Well, that was actually inspired from something in Kirby Superstar, where you can summon out helpers, and those were who the player 2 plays as. I like this a lot better here. For a similar way, I like the copy abilities better in Superstar, just because it doesn't really trivialize things, and it actually takes some hits from helpers to defeat enemies and bosses. Also, Kirby can kiss his homies. 10 out of 10 game. Bravo. So one of my favorite modes in Kirby Superstar is the Great Cave Offensive. It's also a pretty fun Smash stage, but I already have 2 videos on my Smash hot takes. I won't talk about those now. It works perfectly fine as any old game mode. If you're not a fan of looking for the little treasure, you can play it completely normally and it's fun. But if you are a completionist, it's much, much more fun to look for everything. As I'm actually somewhere in the middle between those things, so I usually look for some as I play, just whatever I see, and it's still fun. It takes the whole easy to play, hard to master nature that Kirby was built on, and makes it a whole gameplay mode. There are also Gourmet Race, Samurai Kirby, and Megaton Punch, which are fun side distractions. And this game's boss rush is also fun to go through. I never mentioned Adventure's little cowboy minigame before, mostly because my review on that was more of an essay on the copy ability, but Samurai Kirby is essentially a remake of that game. And man, I wish Samurai DDD was an alt in Smash because look how cool he looks. Now, one of the more memorable parts of Kirby Superstar to me was actually the atmosphere. I mean, sure, all Kirby games are cute and look nice or whatever, but Superstar just looks so different. Backgrounds give off a sense of imagination, while making the world of Dreamland generally seem like a bigger place than just what you can see. Again, maybe nostalgia, but this is an absolutely huge improvement for the series. My one complaint is that sometimes backgrounds and environments were just a little inconsistent. It sometimes jumps pretty quickly between environments and doesn't really stick at one for too long. That's just a small thing though. So Kirby Superstar is good. It's really good. It genuinely surprised me by being so, and by just how much it improved from Kirby's Adventure. Let's take a look at how the remake, which released it almost 10 years later, changed and hopefully improved this game too. So, the 2008 DS remake, Kirby Superstar Ultra. I've actually never played this one, so hopefully this will be fun. Okay, most noticeable change right as you boot up Kirby Superstar Ultra is the change in presentation with the game. Not just menus, which would be inevitable for a remake on this for DS, but the game and sprite work as well. Yeah, the sprite work is completely redone, and maybe nostalgia has me preferring the look of SNES Superstar a little more, but holy shit, there's so much passion put into it, and it's some of the best sprite work I've seen in a game. It brings to mind the original's look and keeps intact the same feelings that game's atmosphere gives you, while still doing its own thing in certain ways. King DDD's model belongs in the art gallery. It actually kind of reminds me of sprites used in modern indie games, like Sea of Stars or something. That game came out today when I'm recording, so that's just the first one I thought of. Kirby's model as well looks really pretty, which is great, because it's Kirby, and Kirby should make you happy to look at. They also fixed Wham Bam Rock's design, but they kept Wing Kirby. My one big complaint of this as a remake too is that some of the music and sound effects very choppy compared to the SNES original, which is unfortunate. It's like, this isn't on the GBA or anything. How hard is it to preserve the sound quality of the SNES on DS? Gameplay is pretty much identical to the original, but there are a few new modes here that weren't present in that version. Minigames are replaced with all new ones, with the originals being unlockable. The new ones use touch controls, so This was torture to try to play with a mouse on an emulator, but you know what? I enjoyed the new Super Mario Bros. Minigames enough, so I'm sure these minigames have provided plenty of school bus fun as well. The 3 new modes in this game are all remixes of the ones from previous games. The King's Revenge is a harder version of Spring Breeze, where enemies are certain levels were arranged differently. And you guys know how I feel about a Kirby game giving you a harder challenge if you want it. I played fucking Spring Breeze 5 times within a week, and this time it managed to at least feel pretty fresh. I guess Bandana Waddle Dee is suddenly a character now, and Kirby fans haven't stopped wanting him in Smash ever since. Oh, and I got literal chills before the boss with Mask DDD, especially with that killer theme. But his fight was over in like 10 seconds because I just dashed around with the hammer ability. I did say copy release were 75% fixed here. Those 2 things, Bandana D and Mask DDD, are basically mainstays of the Kirby franchise now, so it's cool they debuted in a remake like this. Another reoccurring Kirby character from this is Galactonite, who debuts in the game mode Meta Nightmare Ultra. Yeah, they went really hard with the game mode titles in this game. This is one where you play as Meta Knight and pretty much you can just speedrun through the entire game with a sword. I like this a lot, because if you remember back to my review of Dreamland 2 and 3, the rare fun moments were almost all from just dashing through everything with an animal buddy or a copy ability. But it kind of felt shallow as you weren't really engaging with things. Maybe you could say the same about this mode, but by this point you've literally already beaten this before, so it feels like a reward if anything. I chose to beat Spring Breeze, but ultimately, I don't really want to beat the same game 3 times over for a video. At least that's what I would have said if I hadn't beat this 3 times over for a video. Yeah, I wrote that into the script fully expecting it to be accurate, but that game mode was so fun, I just had to do it. So I played Kirby Superstar again. So, that Galactonite sure is mysterious. Now, but seriously, I was expecting Galactonite to be like a force in the plot when I learned of who he is a long time ago. But the only real thing about him in this game is he's strong and he got sealed away. That's basically it. He's kind of like the Akuma of Kirby. The last new mode is Helper to Hero, which is Arena, but you get to play as the helpers. That was a little strange once you realize you already have their abilities when you copy them, and it's less cool when you realize you can just play as them as the second player anyways, but still a novel concept nonetheless. So my expectations for Kirby Superstar in general were high in some ways and yet low in others. Considering what came before, I thought I would have some significant issues with Kirby Superstar, but I would still enjoy it. Instead, it played fixer-upper with this entire series' flaws, and only set the bar higher. And the remake, it made it even better. I'm sorry I doubted you, my boy. Like I said before, though it isn't absolutely perfect, and I'm sure nostalgia clouded my vision a little bit when it comes to this game, but that doesn't change the huge step forward that this game even is. It's been great to rediscover not just this, but the evolution of the Kirby series in general. I've never really been too big a fan of Kirby as much as other Nintendo series like Mario, but I hope after this series I'll understand the appeal even more. Now I remember why I put that shit in my username. I am falling back in love with the Kirby series. So next up, I'll be talking about all of Kirby's spin-off games on Game Boy and SNES. See, those are Kirby's Pinball Land, Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby's Avalanche, Kirby Block Ball, Kirby Star Stacker, and Kirby Tilt and Tubble. I think I got all those names right. They switched between just calling them Kirby and Kirby's, so it's kind of confusing. Anyways, if you want to see me go insane reviewing 6 games in one video, stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. And maybe nostalgia has me preferring the look of SNES Superstar a little more, but holy shit, there's so much passion put into it, and it's some of the best sprite work.